Good morning, everyone. Greetings from the Climate Media Hub at the Asia College of Journalism, which is supported by Interlink Academy, Germany. I welcome you all to yet another session on climate change. The title of today's session is Reporting Climate Amid Elections, Economic Crisis, and Geopolitics. So as we all of us are aware that over the past few years, we are witnessing a kind of paradox. The science around climate change has, the science around climate change has become sharper, and impacts are more visible. But on the other hand, public and media attention appears increasingly fragmented. There are wars going on, elections. We also witness that elections are also somewhat disturbing the news cycle, especially with reference to climate change reporting. There is economic uncertainty also, and there are so many other issues which sort of dominate the news cycle. Uh, the climate change reporting gets often pushed, and it's so there is not any we don't witness that the focus is so much on climate change as it used to be, say, a few years back. So to unpack this, to help us unpack these issues, uh, uh, we are joined by Mr. Joydeep Gupta, one of India's most respected environmental journalists, whose work over the past 2 decades has shaped how climate change is understood and reported across platforms. This session will be of, we will have 45 minutes for this conversation during this session, and then it will be followed by the Q&A, and you are welcome to ask your questions. The chat box will stay open during the entire session. But before we begin, let me briefly introduce Mr. Joydeep Gupta. Though I understand that most of us are pretty aware of his work, and he is a very renowned journalist, especially when it comes to climate change. This understanding surrounding climate change and reporting on climate change in India and around the globe. So currently serving as the India manager at Earth Journalism Network, Joydeep Gupta trains environmental journalists and writes on climate change, water, biodiversity, pollution, and sustainable development. Joydeep has worked for the Third Pole, Indo-Asian News Service, The Statesman, the Sunday Observer, and Sunday Mail. He has covered the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio and every UN climate summit since 2007, where he has also been a mentor for other journalists. And Joydeep, as all of us are aware, is a multi-award winner. So, Joydeep, I was wondering if we can begin by taking you back across your own journey in climate journalism. So can we begin with that?
Okay, you want to know about my days when I wasn't a dinosaur?
I think you are mute.
I don't think I'm on mute. Can you
No,
hear me?
yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, yes, so Athar asked me how I started doing climate journalism. Well, this was probably before many of you were born. I don't know if you remember or if you ever heard of something called the Brundtland Report, called Our Common Future, which came out in the late 1980s. And that was the first time, I think, that the world became aware that there's this phenomenon called climate change, which is affecting all of us. And that's when I started covering it. I interviewed Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland, and then, yeah, I've been doing it ever since.
How different is it
Hello?
from reporting in those times
I think there is some problem
and
with my audio.
reporting
So I'm just trying to
now?
fix it.
The kind of stories, the kind of coverage that, is happening.
Okay.
Okay, there are two major differences. One is that climate coverage has increased manifold since in the last 30 years or so. And we actually did a survey from the Journalism Network in 2024, a survey throughout the developing world, not just the developing world, throughout the world, of journalists covering climate change. And it was the overall perception that in the last 30 years or so, climate coverage has increased 10 times. So it has. Overall coverage has definitely increased. That's on one side. On the other hand, what has happened, partly as a result of this success, is that those who would prefer business as usual scenario, who would prefer not to have any action on the climate change issues, they have become more active. They have had some influence on some media outlets. And therefore, we sometimes see, not just in India, in fact, India is one of the better places for this, but in many countries of the world, we see a reduction in climate change coverage. There is also the issue, a genuine issue in journalism, that climate coverage needs to have the news value of coverage. It is at the end of the day journalism that we're talking about. And the very definition, journalism 101, is that we have to provide something new. And if we don't do that, then we are acting more as activists than journalists, and it doesn't work. Because if we are just repeating what people already know, what has already been covered, then without any new angle, without any new geography, then there is very genuine reason for people to start getting apathetic about it. So yeah, these are the two major differences from in climate coverage that I've noticed over the last 30 years or so.
Sorry. Till Athar comes back, I thought I'll ask you another question.
Please do.
And that is that, how do you perceive, reporting taking place today in our country? Because a lot of reporting takes place, but there is no impact. So, in terms of changing of policies, in terms of, so I wanted to know how, are we really making a difference by the reporting we are doing?
Yes and no. We're not making the big difference, but we're making small incremental differences here and there. In many cases, they can be as important as the big differences. In many cases, they have a snowballing effect. Let me try to illustrate with a couple of examples. So, you know that for various reasons, mostly economic, India is pushing renewable energy, mostly solar and wind, very hard over the last 15 years or so. Now, we have been reporting on this movement, on this energy transition now for at least 7 years, since just a little bit before the COVID lockdown. And we have found that while overall the rollout of renewable energy in India is moving quickly, it is also moving along with some problems. There are issues such as solar panels not working at the ground level. There are issues of forcible land acquisition. There are issues of transmission difficulties. There are issues of finance. There are issues of distribution companies basically quietly trying to oppose what's going on in the energy transition. So we have been reporting on these, and we find that if we have very specific examples, if we can show that, this is the problem with this solar project, then corrective action takes place. I'll give you 2 examples to illustrate what I'm saying. The government of Assam put up solar panels in the riverine islands of the Brahmaputra. As you probably know, the people who live in the riverine islands of the Brahmaputra are really below the poverty line, well below the poverty line. And they were given solar panels because otherwise there's no electricity there anyway. Now, somebody came, put up solar panels on top of their huts or in front of their huts and went away. And those solar panels stopped working within 3 months. People had no idea of what to do, who to call, where to go. So they just did nothing. They just went on as before. It was only when we found out about this and reported on this that the issue was taken up both at the State Assembly and in Parliament. And as a result of that, the installer, the people who were supposed to do the maintenance, they were blacklisted, they were changed, and the maintenance worked. Very similar example from an Dhule district of Maharashtra. So again, it's a largely agricultural district. Farmers had put up solar irrigation pumps all over the place. They had bought it from a local vendor, and when they had done that, when they stopped working, again they didn't know where to go. When they went to the people from whom they bought, they got zero redressal. Again, when we reported on this, the local bureaucrats in charge of this energy transition rollout, they actually rang the reporter. They said, "Hey, you went around. Did you find this out yourself?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And then the bureaucrat went around himself and found that the story was correct. And there was corrective action taken. Again, contractors changed, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to say is that if we can do proper evidence-based reporting, as we should be doing in any journalism, if then we do make an impact, and when we make an impact, then what happens? There is a snowballing effect. What happened in Dhule district of Maharashtra actually led to the entire state government changing its SOP, standard procedures of how to look after solar panels, solar irrigation pumps, once they had been sold to the farmers. So it is entirely possible to make an impact, to try to think that we can make an impact at the policy level is it happens sometimes. But even if it happens, I suspect no minister or no bureaucrat will ever admit that this was due to one or more media report.
Okay. So let's go back to the title now, I think. So, with geopolitical crisis, the conflicts, and also the economic crisis, economic issues, and if we talk with special reference to India, we have always one or the other elections in one or the other state. So, with all these things happening, almost all the time, and especially we are currently going through a very particular situation globally. So, do you think it is pushing climate journalism, structurally to the margins? So, is there any, competition for, narrative urgency?
Yes, to a certain extent, it need not be so. I think it's very important to understand that climate, especially, and environment in general, is an extremely political subject. Because when you are reporting on climate, when you're reporting on environmental issues such as biodiversity, climate pollution, you are reporting on natural resource use of natural resources. And control over natural resources is political, it's economic, it's political domestically, it's political internationally. So if our reporting is not getting the traction during an election campaign or during the current West Asia war, then I think a lot of the blame should be taken by us ourselves, because we are not able to connect those dots. There are very strong connections. You want me to give a couple of examples?
Yeah, please do.
I'll give you.
Yeah.
Let's look at the current shortage of petroleum because of the Strait of Hormuz issue. Now, tell me which is the country which is a large economy and is suffering the least. We all know that it's China. We all know that it's China. And why is it China? China doesn't have its own petroleum. It imports almost all its petroleum, just as we do. It is because China has moved in the energy transition path faster than any other country in the world. So today, China actually generates on a daily basis well over 40% of its electricity from renewables. So it is still dependent on oil, on coal for its electricity generation, but that percentage has come down. And when we are talking large economies, 10%, 5% are huge numbers. They make a lot of difference. In India today, our national grid gets, on an average day, gets 29% of its electricity from renewables, which is actually very good. It's one of the highest in the world. But I put it to you that it's not good enough. That one needs to do more. And we need to report on this more. There's constant reporting we see that, what are we going to do? There's not enough oil, there's not enough coal. There is coal, but there's not enough petrol, there is not enough oil. What are we going to do? I think it is up to us to point out that on a daily basis or an hourly basis right now, the ACJ is based out of Chennai. Around Chennai, solar farms are being forced to curtail their generation. They're being forced not to generate. Why? They're being forced not to generate because the grid is unable to carry the electricity they're generating. So if we can modernize the electricity grid in our country, we would be able to use more renewable energy, and we would be less dependent on coal, on oil, and coal. Similarly, when it comes to transport, the rollout of clean transport in China has been so much faster than anybody else, any other country. And we are still struggling with it. We are still struggling with it. We don't have sufficient electric vehicles, especially we don't have sufficient electric two-wheelers, because that is the majority of what people use. And leave aside using public transport. That's a long debate. I'm not going into that at the moment. But what I'm trying to tell you is that geopolitical crises are also opportunities for good stories. I can give you similar examples from the recent assembly elections. Look at the Tamil Nadu assembly elections. Look at the manifestos of the larger parties which took part in that election. I've been looking at the manifestos of DMK, ADMK, TVK. Nowhere in these do I see anything how
Jaydeep, just 1 second. We have one participant whose audio is again and again, disturbing.
Yeah. So
Can I
if you
request-
can mute Visheshwar, it will be fine.
Yeah. Visheshwar, could you please mute your audio? Thank you. Yeah, Jaydeep, please go ahead.
Okay, fine. In no manifesto in Tamil Nadu in the recent election do I see any coherent plan on how fishers along the Bay of Bengal coast in Tamil Nadu can deal with reduced income due to climate change. This, to me, was a major opportunity for journalists in Tamil Nadu to do stories on this and to point out it's not in the manifesto. Similar with the West Bengal manifestos. All the Trinamool Congress manifesto, the BJP manifesto, the Congress manifesto, the CPM manifesto, none of them had any coherent plan on how to deal with the forced migration of people from the Sundarbans due to climate change. There was nothing. Again, it was a major opportunity for journalists to point out that, look, what are we talking about? What should voters be looking at? Should they be looking at their daily needs? Should that be the major issue on which elections are fought? Or should it be identity politics, which is on which it is being fought right now? It is being fought right now on identity politics because it suits political parties, all political parties, to fight it on identity politics rather than on issues, because that's where they're weak. But it's our job as journalists to point out that what actually is of interest to the voters are issues. So both campaign time and geopolitical crisis times give us many opportunities of climate coverage and even other areas of environmental coverage.
So, do we have some, examples in other states? Maybe maybe one state anywhere in India, which you think has recently, where journalists have recently flagged this, climate, the focus on climate from the governance front. So, has it been tackled by the journalists in any of the states? Do we have any good example? Because we keep it's our standard grouse that the political parties don't they don't make the climate change crisis or the issues surrounding it part of their manifestos. So it has been our standard compliant. But do you think that it has been reported in a very successful manner in at least one or two states across India?
Kerala is the best example.
Mm-hmm.
Kerala or Keralam, however you want to call it now, is the best example. Journalists in that state have been consistently writing on sea level rise, how it's hitting the coast, how it's hitting fishers, how it's hitting homes. They have been consistently writing on deforestation in the Western Ghats. And they have continued to write once the elections were announced and campaign started. The result was that from the very initial campaign meetings, all the political parties realized that they are going to be questioned on this, because even at the level of village level meetings by candidates, they were being questioned on this. I have reports that candidates have gone to village level meetings near Thiruvananthapuram, and they have been told, look, okay, what are you going to do about the fact that my house is falling down into the sea? Because the sea level is rising. So they have been asked these questions. And once they are asked these questions, then politicians respond. They have to respond because they want to get elected. And these questions will come to the minds of the voters if there is media coverage. Similarly, with the highlands of Kerala, whether it's in Palakkad or Munnar, we have had questions being asked by local residents about deforestation. About deforestation in the Western Ghats, and what is they've directly asked their candidates, what is your position on cutting trees for other projects? And when candidates are asked these at local campaign meetings, they have no choice but to respond.
So again, I'm sorry I'm putting you on spot, but so are there any is there maybe at least one example on the climate action side from the government? So do we have any example of that, wherein the government acted upon the kind of, they reacted to the media coverage, or they reacted to the public demands? So is there any especially with particular reference to climate action, is there any good example of that?
Very difficult to give you examples of action, but it's not difficult to give you examples of policies and policy statements as a result. And to what extent the policy gets implemented in actual action is another matter. There are always lobbies at play, but at least when it comes to policies, look at, I think environmental journalists in India have done a great job over the last 40-50 years. You wouldn't have anything like the Ganga Action Plan without sustained coverage of pollution in the Ganga. You wouldn't have anything like the Madhav Gadgil report on the Western Ghats without sustained coverage of what's happening in the Western Ghats. You wouldn't have anything about relocating fishing villages, fishers' villages, almost all along the Indian coast, all without sustained coverage of what's happening to the fishers' villages as a result of sea level rise. I mean, today you go along the coast, go along the Andhra coast, for it. It's a very good example. 10, 15, 20 years back, if you went along the Andhra coast, In almost every beach, you would see a fisher's village. That was a traditional settlement pattern of fishers. They had their huts on the beach because it was the closest to the sea. It was easy for them. Now, you will hardly see any fisher's village on the beach, whether it's in Odisha, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Karnataka, Maharashtra. Kerala has a problem because it's so densely populated. Moving them but in almost every other state, fishing villages have been relocated. And why have fishing villages been relocated? Because their houses were getting inundated by seawater as the sea is rising due to climate change. And how did the government do this? And why did the government do this? They did it because of sustained media coverage. And mostly, remember this, mostly this has been media coverage by local media, not by national media. Not, it's been in almost all cases, it has been sustained coverage of the issue in the local media, in the local language.
Absolutely, yeah. So when it comes to this, prioritizing development, especially from the governments, I understand, and all of us understand that every government would always love to have focus on development so that they will have something to show to the people, and they want the people to appreciate their work. And this, most often we see that it almost overshadows, most of the times, the debate around climate crisis and the urgency with which it should be tackled. So what do you think? I mean, it has been, this challenge has been there for all the times ever since we started reporting on climate change. So but it is still almost at that level. It has never been resolved so far. We have not been able to kind of have some sort of resolution or solution to it. So what do you think? Has something changed in recent times, or do you think that something is there which can be done so that there is some sort of balance there?
This will not be resolved till India becomes a developed country. It's as simple as that. Because it is only in a fully developed country that you see public demand for a clean air, clean water, etc., taking precedence over a road or a bridge. It's so in environmental economics, this is known as the hockey stick graph. So you have to go below before it starts going up. So yeah, we are still in the first stage of that hockey stick graph. And the best we can do is to keep pointing out the negativities of various projects which are not being taken care of. While it would be silly to completely oppose all development projects or infrastructure projects, because people need infrastructure, they want infrastructure. It's a question of responsible infrastructure. Look at the example from your own state, Jammu and Kashmir.
Jammu and Kashmir,
yeah. I think there was strong demand for a rail line between Jammu and Srinagar. There was strong public demand, and that has been built. Now, who told the engineers not to put culverts below the rail lines as you would put under any other rail line? As the British started putting in the 19th century, when they laid the first rail lines in this country. I mean, it's not a question of not putting in a rail line, it's a question of putting in a rail line in a responsible manner to let the water go under it, instead of sort of getting walled up next to it and leading to structural damage, leading to floods, leading to waterlogging. So our job is, as I see it, not necessarily to say that all infrastructure projects are bad. They're not all bad. But there is a reason, there is a definite case for reporting on the need for responsible development. The Char Dham pilgrimage routes in Uttarakhand are another great example. I think reporters have been writing about the folly of the widening of that road to the extent it has been widened for a very long time. And they have been reporting on it in great detail. There have been so many reports. The government did not listen, and you can see what's happening right now. There is very serious destabilization of of all the mountain slopes there. And so the slightest bit of extra rain, extra snowfall leads to disasters that they wouldn't have led to before. Yeah. So that debate, it should not be seen as a debate. It should not be framed as a debate between development and environment. It's not. It is essentially our job is to show up the lacunae in the development projects so that there is responsible development.
So we were talking about this, too much focus on development and which the governments always love. So do we have any example from any developing country? Of course, we cannot compare India with any developed nation. But are there any examples from any developing country where this balance is somehow maintained, or maybe some effort is there to focus on climate crisis also alongside the prioritizing development?
I can give you many examples from small developing countries, but I will not, because the problems are at different scales there. Talking about developing countries whose economies are at the same scale or similar scales as India, let's look at Brazil, and let's look at South Africa, and let's look at Mexico, and Indonesia. Let's take these four, okay? And because all of them, like India, have a mixed report. Brazil, under different governments, has done very well or very badly in Amazon deforestation or not deforestation, or stopping Amazon deforestation. So it's again, the report is mixed. Brazil has done very well in moving its transport fuel into an ethanol base. Again, like India, there is massive amounts of sugarcane grown there. So they have a lot of ethanol available. And they have, since the 1980s, they have what we are now talking about. They have been doing it since the 1980s. They have done very well there. They have not done well at all when it comes to public transport. It's pretty poor there. Yes, Mukhtar, it is Kuznets curve. It's also called the acoustic graph. So I didn't want to use jargon as far as possible. Then let's look at Indonesia. So again, a highly biodiverse country with a very large area under forests. It has done very badly. Deforestation is rampant. Moving forests into palm oil is rampant. And that has gone on under various governments. So its record is not good at all. Mexico's record is again mixed. It's not bad. It's not all bad. They have done pretty well in terms of adaptation to climate change impacts, especially for its fishing population, especially for its farming population in the south of the country. They've done pretty well there. South Africa again has moved a lot into solar, but probably not enough. It is still a largely coal-dependent economy, energy economy. So again, the report is mixed. So it's the same case with India. Our report is also mixed. We have done extremely well in the energy transition. The fact that we are getting 29% of your electricity that's coming to your home right now,
Yeah,
it's
it's
coming
quite
from
impressive.
solar and wind, is basically, I think, the second best in the world after China. And so we've done very well. So we have done very well on the energy transition. We have not done well at all on various other aspects of climate change mitigation, adaptation, or other environmental issues.
So coming back to climate reporting, so I mean, you have decades of experience of tracking the news cycles. So do you think, especially in India, do you think something has fundamentally shifted in how the climate crisis or the reporting is happening on climate change? So is there anything which has fundamentally shifted over the past few years or maybe in recent times?
India tracks the global trend that the overall climate coverage in the country has increased massively. In the last 30 years, it has gone up by well over 15 times overall. Yeah. But there's those issues that unless you go to your editor with a story with a new story or with a new angle, your editor will say, and has every right to say, and is justified in saying that, look what's new. Don't bring me this. Okay. So there is a lot of that happening. So I hear a lot of frustration from people covering environmental issues, climate issues. But I have actually very little sympathy for them because at least I have found that when you have a good story, professional editors will not say no. Yes, there are editors, there are media outlets which are unprofessional, but there's nothing I can say about that.
So I think we are now in the Q&A session. Do you have any direct question in your chat box?
I did see Mahima's hand going up at some stage.
Okay.
Hi, Joydeep. Hi again. So my question was, we spoke a lot about like development and environment, and as you said, the two should go hand in hand ideally. But right now, there's also a lot of climate action that focuses on tech and tech development in the future, and that sometimes goes, directly with the businesses and startups and things like that, especially with the recent budget CCUS allocation. But there's a lot of opaqueness also, which I feel in what is happening there. How does, as a journalist, one tackle that, A, as a science or an environment story to track the developments, but B, also as how it impacts people or how it intersects with the various socio-economic realities of the country? Like, because there are people talking about like, enhancing soil and this and that, but like it is directly related to farmers. I'm not able to crack those leads, I'll be frank. It's still sounding very opaque to me. So yeah, this is a direct question, those two questions.
Come on, I'm sure you can crack any of these. This applies to all forms of journalism, or not just climate or environment. Do not believe anything unless proven. Do not believe what somebody is telling you. That goes for CCUS. that goes for what is being described as climate smart agriculture. I think it's part of the job that even goes for green hydrogen, by the way. So just because the government is pushing it doesn't make it either clean or a sensible thing to do. So what do we do? How do we do those stories? I think there are enough independent experts available from whom we can check. And then, yeah, if we need to criticize the government, if we need to say that if this particular thing is being, CCUS, for example, is being criticized by scientist X, Y, Z, who are reputable scientists at the national and international level, then I do think we should do these stories. Yes.
Okay, so we have this question. I can't understand it. It is a bit, I mean, the question is like, could you please repeat what it's called in environmental economics?
Yeah,
So-
Kuznets curve. That was the Kuznets curve question.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Mukhtar actually answered that, yes.
So you answered that, okay.
Yeah.
We have one more question. A lot of schemes are projected as climate adaptation schemes, such as drip irrigation, MG-Narega, among others. Do you think some of the schemes need complete overhaul? Because right now we are now reporting the impacts of climate change, but are there existing schemes which are working on the ground helping tackle the crisis?
MG-Narega and whatever it's called now has actually done an enormous amount of good to the ecosystem of India, all over India, because the main civil work done under MG-Narega at a national level were check dams, were small check dams all over the country. We didn't have these check dams all over the country in the 80s, 90s. These are things that have happened in the last 25 years or so. And they are doing a good job, a really good job of holding back rainwater, letting it percolate underground. Yes, with every mega project, there will be issues, there will be problems, and it's our job to point out those problems, both if it happens at macro and micro level. But overall, what I'm saying is that MG-Narega has done a good job of that. The second part of that question is drip irrigation, and I am very, very keen on drip irrigation being rolled out all over the country, far, far, far more than it has been done. The government keeps talking about it, but it is not done at anywhere near the scale that it needs to be done. The vast majority of farmers in this country still depend on flood irrigation, which is the most inefficient form of irrigation that you can think of. You flood your field, you use 3 times as much water as you need to. Much of that water runs off, all laced with chemicals, and goes and pollutes every stream and every river. And you've both used up too much water and not got the result that you want. It makes almost no sense. It is a traditional method in the sense that it was done when other technologies were not available. Drip irrigation, I have personally reported on why drip irrigation is not being taken up from various geographies and where it is being taken up. Where I find it is not being taken up, it is almost always because the farmer feels that the labor cost of actually putting the pipes in is too high. So I think if you need government intervention, that is where you need it. I don't think any farmer in this country, then any farmer, literate, illiterate, whoever, is so stupid as to think that he can keep wasting water if he has an option. There is no farmer that stupid in this country or anywhere in the world. They're not fools. So, but they need an option which is affordable and which makes economic sense. and Bundelkhand was the belt where I was looking at farmer after farmer in village after village not picking up drip irrigation equipment. Bundelkhand used to have a scheme. I don't know if it still has it. It used to have a scheme that if you go to a shop selling an irrigation pump, whether it's an electric pump, diesel pump, whatever, the shopkeeper gives you free of cost the pipes you need for drip irrigation. And when I went around, which was about 10, 15 years ago, every shop in every small town in Bundelkhand had a backyard full of discarded pipes. And I kept asking them why. I mean, aren't you giving them to the farmers? You're supposed to, your government is giving it to you to give to the farmers whenever you make a sale. And invariably the reply was, we give it to the farmers, they don't want it, they throw it into the backyard, and they go take the pump and go away. So then when you go and ask the farmers, they say, who's going to dig the holes? Who's going to pay to dig the holes? So that is the issue. And where they have done it, Marathwada. I've seen Marathwada in Maharashtra where they have actually done it. And they have actually beaten the drought. One of the most feared droughts in India has always been the Marathwada drought. In that belt, Jalna, Latur, that belt. And wherever they have drip irrigation, in the middle of that dusty plain, you will see complete green. Yes, so I'm all for drip irrigation, and many more stories should be done.
So, can you see any direct question?
This is the last question on my chat box.
Okay. So there is not any. Okay. So taking the benefit of your presence, so can I ask one more question? So it is about the framing of climate change in international media and the Indian media. So do you think there is any difference? There of course are differences. So but is there any stark difference which you can see?
Oh yeah.
Maybe our media can learn from the international framing of international media, framing of climate change by international media, or they can learn from us. So is there anything any lessons or any observations over there?
It's actually very interesting because your question is extremely interesting because the American media has learned from the Indian media on how to report sea level rise. No American journalist 10, 15 years back thought that sea level rise was an issue till some of them started seeing the stories on it in the Indian media. And then they said, oh, is this happening in New York? Is this happening in Louisiana? And when they started checking, they found, yes, it was happening. So yes. Now, when you talk about the difference in reporting in the global south and the global north, you have to think of climate reporting because climate is hitting every aspect of everybody's life. Climate reporting is also not one monolith. So when talking about climate impacts or adaptation, there is not much difference. When it comes to talking about climate negotiations, there is a huge difference. And that huge difference is that when it comes to climate negotiations, then you find that the media in developed countries, by and large, follow their government's line and refuse the responsibility of having put so much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere for the last 200 years. And they keep talking about who's putting it now, completely ignoring the fact that 80% of the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has been put there by them. So yes, there is that difference. Not much for us to learn because this is coverage issue that needs to be continued. Yeah.
So one more thing, you tangentially referred to this, the localized reporting. When you had, you actually referred to localized reporting. How local reporters actually, highlight the climate issues as compared to the, maybe the reporting in the urban areas. But on the other hand, I have also heard people saying that climate coverage in India remains more or less urban and elite focused. So I mean, when you said when you said it, I actually I found it quite interesting, because you are saying that it is the local media uh, in India which is doing a great job. So what kind of differences you see between the localized reporting and the local the reporting by very regional reporters, and by the reporters say in Delhi, Mumbai, and other metropolitan cities? Again, are there any differences and any interesting observations?
The reporters are just as good wherever they are. But yes, reporters in small towns sometimes need more help. And the reason is that they don't get to go to so many meetings and conferences, so they don't get to develop so many sources, so many especially experts, expert sources. So yeah, to that extent, they need help, but they're just as good. And on the other hand, those who are sitting in metropolitan cities are just as good. Come on, ACJ is based out of Chennai. Look at the huge number of excellent climate impact stories done by Chennai-based journalists on the coastline of Chennai, including impacts on the large fisher folk in northern Chennai. They have done enormously good amount of work. So yes, I don't see any difference. I see a lot is being reported. But yeah, there is a perception that maybe is created by the fact that many of us are looking more at the national and international media rather than the local media.
Okay. So one last thing, actually one last request, because we have maybe I think most of the participants are the early career journalists. So for their benefit, if you can please tell us, what the climate reporting would look like, going forward. So are there any, interesting things from you to share about that, what they should watch for, and how it is going to be, in future? Because, we are going through very interesting times. So
Yes.
how this would look like, going ahead.
Look at the relationship between climate change and all your other beats. Look at the relationship between climate change and all aspects of life. Look at the way climate change is affecting the water you drink. If you are a resident of Chennai or Vizag or Kochi or Mumbai, can you today drink water from a tube well? You cannot. It's too salty. You'll fall ill. So it's climate change that has forced you to have an RO. It is climate change that has forced you to buy bottled water. A combination of climate change and pollution is what has forced this. So look at those angles. Your audiences will respond when you give them angles that are of interest to them, that are of use to them for their daily lives. Similarly, on transport, okay, we live in large cities, we commute to work. We are all struggling with increased petrol prices. We are all we're all struggling with traffic jams. We're all struggling with poor public transport. So we end up using private transport, and it keeps getting worse and worse. So what is the impact of that we can have if we can actually move towards cleaner forms of transport, towards public transport? What is the impact that will have both on you as a commuter and on the climate? So look at the various angles. Don't look at it as an environment story. It's not an environment story. It's a political story. It's a security story. It's a health story. It's a major health story. Remember, climate change is leading to high blood pressure all along the Indian coast because the people who cannot afford to drink RO water or bottled water are drinking water that is too salty. So their blood pressure is going up.
Absolutely.
So there are these issues.
I'm not sure whether you can take this question. One participant has asked one more question, I think. On just transition, someone has asked a question.
Yeah, renewables.
Can you see it? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Where there are non-existent coal mines, mostly Chennai, Gujarat, Maharashtra, but places like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, which have coal mines. But if renewables are put up in these places, how do you think just transition will happen? It's a story you should be doing, because I don't think anybody has an answer to your question. People are looking at ways to provide just transition. Yes, there is a lot of work going on. There is a lot of talk going on. There is a lot of research going on. I haven't seen any good answers. And I do think this should be reported on more often.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Joydeep. Many thanks. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Okay, thanks, and bye, everybody.